Chapter 5. To be a father. Mogun screamed himself awake and dragged out the hidden sword from under his pillow before scanning the lightless room with frightened eyes. His first thoughts were, where are the bodies? Where are the burning buildings? And where are my parents? It took his sleep-laden mind a moment to remember where he was, and when it did, his confusion vanished. He was at the Bleeding Sword Academy, sleeping in the room provided to him, and it was the middle of the night. Realization settled his racing heart, and he let out the breath that he had not realized he had been holding. Closing his eyes, he began a series of mental exercises that his master had drummed into him years ago. Gradually his breathing slowed and his features relaxed. The calmness spread, first across his body, then his mind, until eventually soothing his troubled soul. With equilibrium re-established, Mogun returned the sword to its hiding place and settled back down. Although unwilling to go back to sleep, he did eventually settle into a state that allowed him a measure of rest, a state that he remained in for the rest of the night. Yip let out a sigh as he felt Mogun slip into his meditative state and broke off his observation of his apprentice before retracting his consciousness back to his body. The nightmares had not plagued his apprentice in over a year, and Yip had hoped that the young man had left them behind. This sudden relapse worried the swordsman, and he wondered what could have triggered it. Was it pressure from the upcoming tournament? Should he do something about it? Was there anything he could do about it? These, and 100 other questions, along with possible solutions, flooded his mind, threatening to overwhelm his own sanity. Ruthlessly, he cut through the flood of confusing thoughts and decided on the correct course of action, that being inaction. He would continue to observe his apprentice, but would not interfere unless he had to. A large part of his decision was based on his trust in the young man. Mogun was amongst the very best of any of his peers in terms of combat skills. In fact, Yip would go so far as to say his apprentice ranked within the top 5 of his generation. To have reached such a position required not just physical strength, but also strong mental fortitude. As such, Yip was confident that Mogun would be able to overcome whatever emotional obstacles he was now experiencing. So Yip would step back and give his apprentice a chance to deal with this on his own. If he rose to the challenge, then Yip would be there to cheer him on. If he failed, then Yip would be there to cushion his fall. With the course set, Yip returned to his own rest and quickly slipped into a deep, dreamless slumber. Rocking to the motion of the carriage, Hao sat with eyes half closed as he endured the company of his father. With trembling hands, the emaciated Xiao poured himself a cup of tea, while trying once again to engage his son in conversation. The pattern had repeated itself for 3 days now, with each attempt at communication from the father being met by silence from the son. Finally unable to put up with his father's babbling any more, Hao shot to his feet and stormed out of the carriage door without so much as a backwards glance. Ba let out a sigh as he watched Hao leap out of the carriage and walk alongside the vehicle, his face a mask of pent-up frustration. He had arranged for Xiu and Hao to share a carriage, in hopes that the close proximity would help thaw the relationship between the two of them. He had even gone so far as to forbid anyone from changing their assigned carriages, to prevent any attempt from Hao to get out of the situation. Unfortunately, all he had achieved was to make Hao even more hostile towards his father. Instinctively, Ba wanted to leap off his horse and go grab his grandson by the neck before forcing him to apologize to his father. However, the impulse passed quickly as he remembered the reasons for Xiao's decision to allow his son to act this way. They were good reasons, and although Ba did not agree with them, he could not deny their validity. So instead, he settled for shaking his head and silently lamenting the burdens of a father.